At the airport, Mike watches Thomas and Griselle Sawyer step down from the Douglas DC-3. It's not often that a trophy hunter brings his wife on safari, he mutters. Later that evening, at a table in a hotel's dining room, the Sawyers and Mike eat dinner, but it is more a getting acquainted with answers to questions about the safari. It goes on until their appetite is satisfied. Brandy and cigars? Mike asks. Yes, of course, Thomas says. I'm going to the room, Griselle says. She came along against her husband's persistence not to. She thought that it would be exciting to do so, and now that she's here, and after seeing Mike, she believes now that she knows why her husband's announcement of every excuse to discourage her. Mike is a real Tarzan. After brandies and a cigar, Thomas and Mike says goodbye until tomorrow. Leaving the hotel, Mike believes that he now knows why Thomas would not leave his wife roaming around Philadelphia alone. In the morning, Mike meets the Sawyers at the hotel, then takes them to a depot to examine the vehicles, supplies and equipment that he had arranged and awaits payment to be officially in their possession. A tall original African approaches. Here comes T, he's our main fellow, he'll keep the others in order, doing their job, Mike says. How many others? Thomas asks. Only 6. One more thing, it is a custom on safari that I boss him. Okay with us. Well, with this done, we can meet here in the morning, say 7. Okay. Mike gives Thomas a business card. Go to this place, give them this card, and they will fit you both with your safari clothing. After the outfitting, the couple sightsees the city for an hour, then returns to their hotel room. At the depot, Mike starts the jeep to lead the caravan away from the city. Sometime this evening we will camp in the so-called darkest Africa to begin the hunt, he says. Mike and T occupy the front seat, so that they can easily take turns to drive. The Sawyers sit on the back seats. When not driving, Mike sneaks glances of Griselle, using a tour guide's ruse to do so. She catches on and slyly gives him rewards. Time for lunch, boss, T says. They do not set up tents, instead erect canopies, with mosquito nets, to protect them from nature. The cook serves snacks with brandy to Mike and the Sawyers. The fellows are served warm beer with their snacks in their own canopy. Thomas sees impalas in the distance frolicking in their magnificent ways. Wow, look at that. They look beautiful, Griselle says. If we're lucky, when we camp, maybe we can have one for dinner, Mike says. If you're lucky, Griselle says. Yes, if I'm lucky. They're back on the road. During evening, they arrive at their destination. T supervises setting up the camp. Mike and the Sawyers sit in the jeep. I'm going to get us some meat to be salted while I still have sunlight, Mike says. Okay, the Sawyers says. Want to come along to get used to the rifle? Sure. I'd like to be included, Griselle says. Sorry, but there's only 2 rifles for the hunt. Well, I'd like to watch. Honey, please. Okay. Minutes later in the bush, Mike and Thomas watchfully makes their way through the thickets, followed by the rifle bearer. From your letter, you shoot at clay pigeons a lot, Mike says. Yes, Thomas says. Being a skeet shooter is the reason that he's here. Many members of the mainline skeet shooting club had been on trophy hunting safaris and bragged so much about their adventure that it convinced him to go on the adventure. The only thing is that they left their wives behind to care for their children. He and Griselle have no children. He tells Mike that Griselle is also a skeet shooter and she's good. They met at a skeet shoot contest. Oh, okay. Mike sees an eland that would supply them meat. Want to take the shot? Mike asks. Best to hurry before it scurries. Thomas does, and the animal crumble to the ground while its companions scurry away. At the camp, the cook/Skinner takes possession of the dead animal. Griselle sits on a canvas chair in the dinner tent, sipping red wine, a bottle from her supply. Who shot it? She asks. Your husband, Mike says. The great white hunter let that happen. Part of the job. One of many, I guess. Mike grins. They had stew, bread, roasted apples for dinner. Why doesn't T sit with us for meals? Griselle asks. It is a custom of the safari, Mike says. After dinner, Mike asks, "Brandy and a cigar?" "Yes," Thomas says. "I'll stick with my wine without a cigar." "Oh, what do you want to do with your trophy?" Mike asks. "What?" "The animal that you shot, they skinned it." "Oh, well, Grizel and I agreed that photographs would be sufficient." "I'll get the camera," Grizel says. "Don't worry about the skin, T will take care of it." It's twilight, the camp shuts down for the night. The Sawyers' tent sits directly across from Mike's tent. At the end of the cot, Grizel sits on the canvas chair. Thomas has gone to sleep on his cot protected by a mosquito net. She can see inside Mike's tent through the mesh porthole, because his lantern hangs from a pole that allows him to wash himself, naked, with help of a mirror attached to the tent's side. She watches him with the urge to join him to make him sweaty again. Thomas moves on his cot. She looks at him, then it comes to her, she can keep a secret, even hide a secret, but can Tarzan? What if he brags to other white hunters, and it is heard by someone from the club visiting here, and it gets back to Thomas? She swallows the last drops of the wine, then makes sure the mosquito net is tight before she crawls onto the cot. She lays, thinking about Tarzan, even drifts to sleep thinking about him. In the morning, after they wash themselves, as they dress, Thomas asks, "What were you dreaming about last night?" "What?" "You were moaning like, well, you know." "Oh, well, it has been days." "Oh, yeah, well, we will have to wait until we return to the hotel." "I can wait." They join Mike at the dinner tent for breakfast. After being served, they eat, sip coffee. The fellows has already had their breakfast and sit in a circle under a screened canopy, yards from the dinner tent. A cattle herder steps to the canopy. He and T talk. Mike notices. The Sawyers' concentration is on their meal until Mike stands. T walks towards him, the cattle herder looks on. T and Mike talk. T walks to the cattle herder, says a few words, and as he leaves the camp the cattle herder waves to Mike, who waves back. "Anything wrong?" Thomas asks. "Well, his herd is being attacked by an old lion. It gotten so old that it has no pride and can't chase down a meal, so that herder's cattle has become its easy meal ticket, but it is putting the herder out of business. So, he asked for our help to kill the lion," Mike says. "To kill it?" Thomas asks. "Yeah, and to get you another trophy." "Oh, I see. The herder offer us a cow if we get it. I'll talk to T about that. In an hour, we'll leave the camp here and take the 2 jeeps to its last cow killing." Mike walks to the fellow's canopy. "I want to go along," Grizel says. "Maybe, Mike will let you ride in one of the jeeps." "No, I mean on the hunt in the bush." "Grizel, please." Minutes later, Mike returns. The discussion begins right away about Grizel accompanying them on the hunt. "It's the law that only the designated trophy hunter with a rifle bearer can go into the bush with me on the hunt," Mike says. "But I'll tell you what, you can ride with us to the grounds. I have a double-barrel shotgun, short barrels, loaded with double-aught shells that stays in the jeep. Legally, you can use it for your protection if something happens." Disappointed, however, she accepts. T finds the lion's tracks, then leads Mike, Thomas, and the rifle bearer into the bush. At the jeeps, Grizel waits under shade from a tree with 2 of the fellows. After a half hour, she stands in the jeep, more so to lose boredom than to stretch her legs. 15 minutes later, she stands by the jeep. One of the fellows decides to walk to the edge of the bush for what only he knew. It's about 200-yard distance from the jeep. She decides to cradle the shotgun in her arms. The fellow returns fast, yelling, running for his life from the lion. Startled, she shakes it off, aims the shotgun, gets a shot, then shoots. The lion tumbles, rolls on the ground. It lay still as if trying to recall what it was doing, then it remembers. It stands, but one of the front legs would not take the weight. She aims. Crack, a rifle bullet twists lion's body around. The second rifle crack, the bullet smashes through its body, tearing apart its heart. It is dead. They form a circle around the lion. "It is best that he went this way than being torn apart by hyenas while still alive," Mike says. Thomas stands at the tail of the lion, Grizel stands at its head posing for their trophy photographs.